Check this out. How cool is this? I mean, you guys might actually think this is kind of corny, and that's fair. It might be a little corny, but I like it. I wanted to get a couple of major personal milestones kind of solidified here on this wall. So I had photos from my big 602-pound squat printed and framed with me and Ariana. She's been with me through all my squat milestones. She was there for my 400-pound squat, 500, and then finally the 600. And then over here, there's just like a different angle of the 600. And then my first ever 405 back in like 2017. You guys remember that video? First time I ever hit it. And those of you who've been following my channel know why that was such a huge goal for me and how much it meant to me and why it meant that much to me. So I figured I'd have that little memory frame too, even though we've done this weight like a dozen times now. And of course, we've benched more than that weight by now, but still, that was a cool memory for me. So yeah, we've got like a cool little like collection of memories going on now at this point, which I love. Giving generalized advice for strength training is really tricky because everyone is built so differently. We all have different body types, different limb lengths, different leverages, different styles of lifting. So usually, one piece of advice that may work wonders for me, it might not do much for you at all, and vice versa. So if I were to give 3 pieces of advice that literally anyone and everyone who's watching this video can definitely benefit from and boost their bench press with, it would be these 3 things. 1, pause your reps. Switch to pause reps completely. Don't worry about throwing them in on one day and keeping regular reps in the other day. Just all pause reps from here on out. Listen, they'll be harder at first. You're gonna have to kick your ego aside and use a little bit of lighter weight to start with, but you're gonna get used to it nice and quickly. And I'm telling you, if you kick your ego aside and work with the lighter, boring weight for a little bit, you're gonna thank me later because your bench is going to skyrocket from this one trick alone. And this goes for anybody, no matter what your style or build is. See, what happens is, when you fail a rep, where do you usually fail? About halfway up. Midway to 3/4 of the way up. Kind of close to the lockout, right? It's never usually right off your chest. This happens all the time, and because of this, everyone thinks that they have a weak lockout. And everyone then goes and tries to train their lockout with lockout training, and yet their bench still doesn't go anywhere. This is because 95% of lifters, in my opinion, that think they have a weak lockout don't actually have a weak lockout. In fact, in my opinion, from what I've observed, it's really rare to find a raw lifter with good bench technique that genuinely has a weak lockout. It's really uncommon to see in my experience. And it usually only comes around when you're working with really elite weights. What's actually happening with majority of the people in this situation is they're actually weak off their chest. It's the opposite of what they think it is. They're weak at the bottom of the rep, but it tricks them and they don't realize this because you have momentum helping you push the bar up for the first half of the rep. So that first half of the rep goes successfully, and therefore you think that part is good to go. And it's the second half that's tough. But what's actually happening is this: when you use touch and go reps, even if they're controlled, most of the time you're bouncing the bar right off of your body like a basketball on a court. Even if you control the reps, you're still probably bouncing it a little bit on your body more than you realize. But even if you're not, you have something called elastic tension building up in your muscles. When you unrack that weight and you're holding it over your body, your muscles are tensed. They're exerting energy into that bar already to hold that weight up, and they're tight and tensed and ready to go. As you begin lowering that bar, that tension is building up more and more and more, like pushing a spring down. It's ready to explode. Once you get to the bottom, even if you don't bounce it off your chest, your muscles are ready to explode back up like an elastic band coming back at you, or like a slingshot. This is called a stretch reflex. So you have elastic tension being built up like a coiled spring, and then at the very bottom, whoop-ah, it pops back out and helps you explode the bar back up off your chest. And like I said, on top of it, even if you're being controlled, you're still probably bouncing it off your body a little bit more than you realize. The first few inches are all momentum pushing that bar up off of your chest. What happens though is bouncing a bar and a stretch reflex, it's only gonna give you so much power for so long. It's only gonna last for the first inch or two off your chest. And then your muscles are able to kick in a little bit here in the midpoint, because let's face it, doing a half rep where you only bench halfway down, it's way easier, right? You could probably do a lot more weight if you only bench to about here than you could if you went all the way down with the bar, right? We're stronger at a more locked out position. The further down we go to our chest, the weaker we are. So that momentum helped you get past the weakest possible point. So even if you're only a couple inches off your chest, your muscles are able to come in and help you muscle it just a few more inches. But even that can only go for so long and so far, because that's not true strength. That's your muscles trying to just save the day by the skin of their teeth. So you'll go a few more inches, about halfway up the rep, and then that fails. And then you have nothing left in the tank, you have no actual strength or tightness left, And that's when the rep fails. And that's why everyone seems to fail here at this midpoint, because they're weak off of the chest, not the lockout. So the first step to fighting this is to simply switch to pause reps. It's gonna make the biggest difference in the world. Doesn't have to be long either. They don't even have to be a full 1 Mississippi. They can be about a half a second. They can be 1 misses up, just like that. As long as that bar comes to a complete stop, and let it sit on your chest at least for a half a second, and then launch back up from a dead stop. If you just switch all your reps over to pause reps, even if you have to go light at first. Tip number 2, do a soft touch pause. And this is a cherry on top of the pause reps, but it makes the biggest difference in the world. So once you start practicing pause reps, the next mistake you're gonna wanna make is letting the bar sink into your chest. Maybe you've seen your favorite lifter do it as well. There are some elite lifters that do it on purpose, in a strategic manner. But that's rare. It's not the most common thing in the world, and they're elite. They're seasoned, they know what they're doing. There's rhyme to their reason. You're not elite, you're not that seasoned, so there's no need for you to be doing this. What's gonna happen is you're gonna let that bar sink into your chest, because it's gonna give your arms a break for a second. It's gonna give your chest and shoulders a break from holding that bar up, just for a split second. And you might even use your body to kind of trampoline the bar back out as well, the belly bounce. And again, just like the touch and go bounce, this is helping the bar lift off your chest with momentum. You're not building that strength at the bottom. Your muscles aren't in charge of holding that bar anymore at the bottom. They can relax when it's just being rested into your stomach like that. And then you use the momentum to start the rep all over again. So that's just as bad as a touch and go rep. Plus, it's a lot of movement that can help make you loose during the rep, and you wanna stay nice and tight. So what I tell everybody is I want you to practice trying to touch just the fabric of your shirt with the barbell, but not the skin underneath your shirt. It's impossible, obviously. If you touch your shirt, you're gonna be touching your chest or your sternum as well. It's unavoidable, but if you focus on that goal and try to just touch the fabric of your shirt without touching your body underneath it, you're gonna ensure that you touch the bar very gently on your body. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna force your arms, your shoulders, and your chest to stay fully engaged and holding 100% of that weight, even at the bottom. And this is gonna suck. This is gonna be really hard because, again, the bottom is the weakest point of the lift. So you're gonna be struggling to hold that bar up in place for a full pause down here like this. And it's gonna drain you. You're gonna feel weak from it. And then you're gonna have to explode back up from a dead stop with your muscles already being fatigued from pausing down here. So exploding back up is gonna be even harder. And you might find that your reps are a little slow and hard at first. That's why you wanna start with a light weight until you can get used to this. But let me tell you, when you can get that control down to where you're pausing here, all the weight's being supported by your upper body, still by your muscles that are pressing, not your torso, and then you get familiar enough with that to where you can still explode back up nice and fast, your bench press is gonna go through the roof. That's gonna be one of the biggest differences in your bench, I promise you. It's gonna also promote tightness. You're gonna learn how to stay very tight in your bench press from that. Your shoulders, your lats, everything. My third and final piece of advice, and this is actually probably the first piece of advice I give to people when I work with them, and it is a game changer, and it is the smallest, easiest change you can make. You can do this right now without changing anything major about your form or technique. When we bench, it is natural to want to inhale as we lower the bar. And exhale on the way up. We inhale as we lower it, we exhale on the way up. Instead of doing that, I want you to focus on inhaling all of your air like you're about to go underwater. First, hold the air, force it into your stomach to get that air in your stomach, that Valsalva maneuver, and then lower the bar. Thank me later. That will make the biggest difference. And here's a bonus, and this is a bonus because this may not apply to anyone and everyone, but I do think it'll apply to probably 95% of you. Treat your unrack like the first rep of your set. Big mistake I see people make is they are relaxed and lazy and yawning when they go to unrack the bar. They're not inhaling, they're staying loose, they're not taking the unracking part seriously. They're just unracking the bar, then once it's over them, then they try to shimmy and get all tight and then inhale, then they get serious. You just lost so much energy and power that way. What I want you to do is treat the unrack like it's rep number 1. So big air, taking all the air first, then once you're holding that air in your stomach, then unrack the bar with your chest, with your lats, with your triceps, and rack that bar powerfully. Then once it's over you, exhale. That's the second mistake people make. Some people will try this, they'll inhale like I said to, they'll unrack it, and then they'll just go right into their rep with that same breath. This is where the 95% of people think comes into play. That's not necessarily wrong. Some people do that and they have good luck with it. And it's definitely an older thing. Some of the older federations in powerlifting, they didn't have all 3 bench commands that they have now in most federations. You were able to literally just unrack the bar and go. And Jeremy Hormstraw is a great example of a phenomenal bencher who does this. He inhales, he braces, he unracks and goes right into his first rep with that same breath of air. So if that does work for you, or you're not competing and you're not worried about the commands, that's fine. Most meets nowadays, they require you to unrack the bar and hold it above you until the ref says to start, in which case you'll be holding your breath for a very long time. Most of you are going to benefit from my tip here. So that is, again, treat the unrack like the first rep. So inhale, brace, then unrack. Once it's over you and in position, then exhale. Okay? Like you just finished that rep. That rep is done. You exhale, then you reset and you take a brand new breath of air in all over again to start that first rep. Okay, so inhale, unrack, exhale. Inhale again, then begin the rep. And repeat that between every single rep. And I hope that helps you guys. Hit me in the comments with any questions you guys want and any topics for further videos like these. Love you.